Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back, dear learners. In this course of architectural thesis, today we will cover the presentation on the preparation of concepts for architectural design. So now let us look into the content of this presentation. We will start with defining the design concept, what is a concept and how it is prepared, or why is it very important when we start with the design process. Then we will look into different types of design concepts such as formal, functional, contextual and the symbolic design concept. Thereafter, how the research actually translates into the concept narratives. So that part will focus. Thereafter, the tips for making a very strong concept narratives. Some case examples will be discussed from past theses, or a few examples from where you can understand how the concept is actually developed for a specific project. Then the conclusion and some wrap up activities for your to perform or to complete at the end of this presentation. So to give you a recap of what was learnt in the previous presentation, we attempted to understand how can we synthesize all the findings from our literature review, from case study, also from the site analysis to draw the design ideas. So at that stage we cannot directly, from the separate analysis, we cannot directly jump into the development of concept. So the stage between development of concept and that of the analysis includes some some brainstorming, which includes the conclusions that can be drawn from different studies that you do before you arrive into the stage where you actually develop concept for the architectural project. So that is what was covered in the previous presentation. So an introduction to synthesis was explained, wherein the process of combining diverse data to inform architectural design solutions was discussed. The methods of interpretation, which included SWOT analysis, mind maps and concept mapping, also overlays and merge were actually used to these tools are, or these different methods are used to merge findings into the coherent concept that you can develop. So transformation of data into design objectives was understood, how it is done, the special requirements, how is it calculated or how is it finalized for the project, and all these details were understood in the previous presentation. And also the emphasis was on collaborative synthesis, use of some synthesis tools, like what are different tools by which you can synthesize your findings, so that you are in a stage where you can just point out few important ideas that can lead to the development of concept for the project, because concept is actually a soul of any project. It makes it a very unique. If there is a concept, if there is an idea, that means there is something very innovative or something very unique value that you have added into the architectural project. So let us now look about the details of the concept, how is it prepared, and how, and also look into with some examples by which I will explain how you can develop concept for some of the projects. So in that note, let us now first look into the introduction to the design concept. So a concept is basically a foundational idea. It is a starting point from where you initiate the design process. That means before this, everything is related to the existing features of the architectural project. For example, if you are doing a case study, so there probably you are not attempting to design anything, you are studying an existing building. Likewise, from literature review, you are trying to grasp understanding about the details of a specific project or a specific type of building. Likewise, for site analysis, you are actually studying and analyzing the existing site in which you are going to design. So all these informations help you to develop a foundational idea for the project, and that is actually a core idea that provides design depth, that provides meaning and a direction to the design for that type of building. So it's the initial spark that sets the entire creative process in motion. So if you have a very interesting concept or ideas in your mind, you will remain enthusiastic about the project. But if you do not have a very strong concept or a strong idea, then also you may be able to proceed ahead in your design process, but the soul will be missing in your project. That means you were not able to give your 100% in that in that type of in that particular project. So that is what concept brings into an architectural project. So it is a guiding principle. It is also some kind of some kind of approach by which it will help you move in a particular direction. So if you want to work towards sustainability or towards net zero building, so that can be a idea in your mind, but what are the features that are essential to make a building net zero or to make it more more responsive towards the existing climatic zone of that region. So these different strategies actually are the concept or idea that goes behind the project. So these are called as concept. So if you want to define a concept, it can often be summarized as a short statement or a compelling visual metaphor, acting as a shorthand for the project's essence. So this is what is a proper definition of the concept. So it is some kind of sketches or a vision statement for the project, which actually guides you in the process of moving ahead in the design process. So the importance of a design concept are listed here. So the first is it provides clarity, that is it simplifies complex decision making by offering a guiding principle of for every design choice. So whatever the choices that you make in your design, so it actually the concept or the idea that you have, that guides you in the design process. So subconsciously or consciously, it may be in your mind that you are moving in a particular direction, but at times we do not tap into that subconscious mind or that subconscious direction or subconscious idea that is there in our mind that guides us in the design process. So what is that idea that actually is channelizing the entire energy in a particular direction? So we have to understand that. So that is what architectural design is not just based on what we how much we try to grasp the understanding. It is also based on the mental ability, that is how much are we able to process the information. So this is what, when we process the information, when we engage ourselves wholeheartedly with the project, at that moment our we are able to synthesize the different ideas that goes into our mind and come up with some unique concept for the project. So this is what is a concept and how it is to be developed. Then the next importance of concept is that it communicates the intent. So what is our main goal of the project? So what do we intend through this type of design. So that is what is communicated through the concept. It ensures consistency, that is, it maintains a cohesive narrative and aesthetic throughout the all stages of the design process. Because when we have one single idea in our mind, so we are actually binded, because that idea has to reflect through the entire design process. That means the way the blocks are arranged in the site, the way we do the planning of spaces within a building. Also, if we look into the elevation, or if we look into the material that is used, or even to the floor to floor height, or if you have any some kind of semi open or open spaces. So all these different ideas are binded by the concept. So if you have if you have any concept in your project, so all these different layers of the design process will be binded by the concept that is there in your mind. Then also it strengthens the identity of the project, so it imbibes the project with a unique character and distinct personality, enhancing its memorability and impact. So these are some some important points which exhibits the importance of the design concept. Then now let us look into the types of design concept that can be developed for any project. So the first is functional design concept, second is contextual design concept, then the third is symbolic, and fourth is the formal design concept. So let us now look into the details of each of these typologies. So the first is formal design concept. It is basically driven by the geometry, shape and proportion of the built typology that you have selected for the project. So it focuses on abstract elements like symmetry, grids and modularity. So these are some architectural design principles that you have learned in your early semesters of architecture course. So these ideas can actually be used to design the building. So if you have seen some very historical buildings of Greece or in Rome, so most of these buildings were based on the formal design concept. So that means some formal ideas about how an architecture of a building should be. So based on this, that has very much less relevant to the typology of the building, but it is based on the formal architectural principles of that we learn in the architecture. So these ideas were the basic were the basis to develop the concept for the project. So it includes features like shape and geometry driven. If you have some ideas related to shape and geometry, or biomorphic, or if it's nature inspired, or the abstract form that you have selected. So it is mostly related to the form of the building, the appearance, the aesthetics of the building. So these ideas are called as formal design concept. Then next is functional design concept. So it in this case the emphasis is on what users can accomplish and how the design solves the problem. So it is more about the functionality, how you enhance the functionality within the project. So these ideas are called as functional design concept. So it is based on the program, the movement and the usability of the spaces. So examples include circulation driven form and adaptable spaces for various uses. So if you have seen Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, so the example of these that type of spaces or that type of buildings are called as can fall in the category of functional design concept. So such plans that develops under functional design concept are activity centric, user oriented and zoning and circulation. So based on these ideas, your functional design concept is developed. Then next is your contextual design concept. So it is rooted in environment, culture and the specific usage scenario. So when you develop a building, or when you design, when you initiate the design process for any building that resembles the context of that site or of that region, then the ideas that you generate are called as contextual design concept. So these designs respond to their surroundings, like architecture blending with natural surroundings, response to site, climate, history or the surroundings. This includes vernacular inspired modern buildings that blend with their environment. So mostly the design ideas are site responsive, cultural and historical in typology, and climatic relevant design ideas. So these are all fall into the category of contextual design concept. Then the next is symbolic design concept. So it conveys emotions, cultural meanings or abstract ideas related to the typology of the building. They tap into the deeper human experiences such as shoes designed to inspire the confidence. So in this case we mean that when you wear good clothes or when you wear very nice shoes, so probably these extra layers that are there on the human boosts the confidence of the person. So likewise in architecture, if you start with a symbolic design concept, then the user will be able to relate with that building much easier. So it may be a case with other typologies also, but it is highly relevant in case of symbolic design concept. So it embeds the meaning, cultural references or even the metaphors at some instances. So some famous example in this case is lotus shaped Baha'i temple, because the petals within the lotus temple is somewhat relevant to the philosophy of the Baha'i religion. So this is what this is how the different ideas related to the users or to the user groups or to the human experiences which are based on the typology of the building guides towards the shape or form of the building. So likewise there are many examples where a symbolic design concept is used prominently. So it is metaphoric, it is thematic as well as a philosophical example, which is that is in nature of the concept. Then let us look into how to translate research into concept narrative. So it includes some steps. That is, the foremost thing is what we do is we collect the data, that is systematic gathering of information through site analysis, user studies and precedent research. Then we identify the key insights, that is analyze collected data to pinpoint significant patterns. We try to look into these features. Then the user needs, cultural elements or the environmental factors. So all these informations are collected and then we proceed towards the development of abstract idea. So all the information that was gathered in the previous stages are used to transform idea into an abstract or a guiding principle, overarching theme for the project. Thereafter a narrative statement is developed. So we craft some kind of we try to jot down our ideas into words so that the words become symbolic in nature, and that eventually leads to the concept development. So we express the same information visually, and we visually through sketches or some diagrams that we draw to represent the ideas that we have for the project. So this is how a concept is developed for the project, and I already explained there are few typologies. Based on that you can initiate the process of developing the concept. Then there are few tips for developing a strong concept narratives. A well articulated concept narrative is essential to communicate design effectively to the examiner or to the viewers who will look into your thesis. So the clarity required here is to tell a story without jargon, that is avoid using technical jargon, explain the concept as if telling a compelling story to a lay person. So this is what is required when you develop the concept. So that you have to keep in mind. So second is always link concept directly back to the specific research findings and data. So when you show some type of study through your research, through case study and through the site analysis, and when you draw the inferences from these sources, and then suddenly if you come up with altogether different concept, it doesn't align with the studies that you have completed, then there will be some mismatch into what the previous studies and that to the concept that you have developed. So there has to be a link, because actually if you look into the process, whatever is you have gathered an understanding from the different studies that you have done before should be that should guide you towards the development of idea or development of the concept for the project. Then the next is augment written narrative with sketches, diagrams, mood boards and material swatches to illustrate the concept, because when you explain it through word, as already I explained you before, because the meaning, the way we perceive words may be different for all of us, for all different type of people. We may perceive a same word in different context, in different, we can imagine different ideas based on the word that is there in front of us. But if we visually showcase that same word, that what we interpreted or how we interpret that word for myself or for the particular project, so that if we see it visually, that is, in that case one will be able to understand what how and what concept have you used for the project. So that is why we always emphasize on the sketches or drawings for the concept, because that gives a clear idea of what the concerned student or the presenter likes to mean from a particular word. So that gives clarity. The next is to ensure the concept remains consistent and informs decision throughout the design development. So when you develop different blocks or when you start the design process, it should not be the case that each and every blocks within the site plan has different has different context altogether. That means the basis for the designing all the blocks are very different. So that should not be the case. It should be remain consistent across the entire design process. Then let us now look into some examples of when we start designing performing arts center. So it is inspired by the fluidity and dynamic motion of the design dance movement. So the research how you can link with the idea of the project is do extensive study about different dance form and the pattern of human movement within the performing spaces. So that will probably guide the circulation pathway, and you can mimic the choreographed sequences within the way you start the design process for the project. So this is applicable for performing arts center. So likewise for the coastal museum, in which you can select a contextual concept, because there the context, that means the way the place where it is located is very dramatic place. So you can use the context in the project very interestingly, in-depth study about local fishing community, their history, traditional craft and natural dynamics of the coastal environment may help you develop the idea for the project. Likewise for memorial pavilion, which is a very symbolic structure. So the concept that you can use for the project may be a symbolic concept. So here comprehensive interviews with the community member who are affected by that particular event, combined with the studies of memorial architecture and psychological responses to the space, may help you develop the concept for that type of project. Then so now let us look into the conclusion or the overall learnings from this presentation. So we understood that a well crafted concept forms the foundation of any innovative and meaningful design. Balancing formal, functional, symbolic and contextual elements creates a holistic and well considered approach for the design. Research driven narratives strengthen relevance, deepen in user connections and validate the design's intent. If you have seen in all the examples, there is a research component to it, because that is how you will be able to understand the details about that type of project, and that is what guides you towards the design process. So there are few activities that are listed here that you can complete by the end of this lecture, and see how the learnings from this presentation is going to be helpful for you. So these are some resources and further readings that you can complete, or that you can refer to understand the details about the architectural thesis. So in our next presentation, we will focus on site planning principles and zoning. So introduction and principles of site planning will be covered, site zoning, examples of site zoning will be discussed, role of natural features and contours, how do they shape the site planning or site zoning will be understood, roles of utilities in planning will be understood, thereafter how you link your site analysis to the planning will be discussed. So with this, I'd like to conclude this presentation, and I hope the information was useful for you to develop the concept for your architectural thesis project or any other design project in your academic curriculum. So thank you for your patience listening.